Now to today's other top story, as Senate Republicans attempting an appeal of Obamacare at this hour. My next guest is leading the charge to allow states to opt out of health care reform. Senator John Barrasso, a Republican from Wyoming and a medical doctor, joining me now. Senator, welcome.
Thanks, Gerri.
Boy, you are here at just the right time. The vote is expected within the hour. Explain to our audience what opting out would mean.
Well, today what we're going to vote on is actually trying to repeal this entire health care law that 58% of Americans want to have repealed. You remember this one that was crammed down the throats of the American people. A Christmas Eve vote written behind closed doors. So I want to repeal that completely. If that vote fails, Senator Lindsey Graham and I have introduced a bill that says let states make the decisions. You and I know that one size doesn't fit all. You know, I'm a doctor, I practiced medicine a long time. I want to make sure that patients get the care they need from the doctors they want at costs, at prices that they can afford. And this health care law doesn't allow that.
Right.
So what my bill does is it says let the states decide if they want to live under this Obama health care law or if they want to come up with what they feel is best for the people in their own states.
Not to get in front of the news here, but the expectation is there's no way in heck that this effort to repeal Obamacare will actually pass in the Senate. What are you expecting?
Well, there's a three-pronged attack going on right now, Gerri. The attack in the courts, and you know, two different state courts, Virginia as well as Florida, have nailed two stakes into the heart of Obamacare. So that's going on in the courts. That'll go to the Supreme Court. There is the effort in Congress, and then there's the effort out in the states, in the country. 26 governors have filed suit. 33 governors have written letters to the president saying we need flexibility. And what my bill does is provides that flexibility to the states, to allow states to decide if they want to mandate that everybody has to buy insurance. That's what the health care law that the president wants says. And it allows states to decide whether they think every business must provide or pay a big penalty for not providing health care. Let the states decide that. And Medicaid, which is a huge unfunded mandate, and you started the show by talking about spending, Gerri, that is going to break the states, and we have governors, Democrat and Republican governors, very worried about it. When you see Gerri Brown and Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York saying we cannot afford these huge mandates being forced upon us by Washington in its one-size-fits-all approach, what that has to tell the American people is that this president and the Democrats in Congress got it wrong.
Well, Senator, you know, governors in some cases already taking matters into their own hands. The governor of Florida saying, you know what, we're not putting money against implementation of Obamacare. Do you think other governors will follow suit? And is this kind of taking matters into your own hand attitude going to become the rule of the day? Can governors stop this thing?
Well, governors are sure trying, and I want to give them the power to make a decision along with their state legislators about whether they have to live under this law or not. I think that those decisions ought to be made at home. You know, right now the Secretary of Health and Human Services has given waivers to over 2.2 million Americans. They're people with friends in high places in the administration. That's how you get a waiver. They've given waivers to over 880,000 union employees. Look at that. I want everybody in America to be able to get a waiver to get out of the impacts that the bad impacts that this health care law is going to have on them.
As you start talking, though, about opting out, states, individual states opting out, when your legislation comes to the floor, would this be the death knell? Would this be the end of Obamacare? Do you think there would be enough states who would say no and wouldn't want to participate, that it would end Obamacare?
Well, I think that a lot of states would like to say no. They'd like to say, let us do it our way. We know what's best in our own states. And I think that that would be the death to this health care law. I absolutely want to give the states that right to make that choice and to speak up about what works best for them. And every election in 2012, every candidate ought to answer that question. Do you think the people in your own state ought to make the decision, or do you think the wise guys back in Washington ought to make the decision? And I'd say people are going to say, no, let us make that decision here at home.
I'll tell you, I've got one more question for you, sir. One of the concerns about the way Obamacare was put through Congress was that it was done quickly. A lot of people didn't even read the legislation. But now Republicans seem to be moving with alacrity, too. And they seem to be putting every idea on the table. Are you guys making the same mistake?
Well, we promised during this last election, where we picked up 63 members of the House of Representatives and the new Speaker of the House, we promised that if elected, we would get a vote in the House of Representatives, and we have kept our promises. The Republicans in the House have voted to repeal Obamacare. The Republicans in the Senate have said we will force a vote. You'll remember, Gerri, that just 2 weeks ago, Harry Reid, the Democrat leader of the Senate, said there's never going to be a vote on that in the Senate. Well, I'll tell you, we're going to vote on it tonight, within the next hour, which I think is just shows our commitment to the American people to try to repeal and replace a law that the American people know, as patients, it's bad for them. Our medical providers, our nurses and doctors who take care of those patients know it's bad for them, and the taxpayers know that this is a terrible law.
Senator Barrasso, thanks for joining us. You've got to come back.
Thanks, Gerri. Anytime.